which a person can mature is directly proportional to the embarrassment he can tolerate.
The seventh topic will be on the crypto assets, their relationship to central bank digital currencies. We're probably going to have both. And the real question is, how are they going to interact? And what's the appropriate role for crypto assets versus central bank digital currencies?
At the Bretton Woods Committee, they're discussing CBDCs and crypto assets. It's not one or the other. It's both intertwined. Bretton Woods was where the world agreed to use dollars backed by gold to be the reserve currency. The Bretton Woods Committee is some DC economic organization that's supposed to improve awareness of the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO. But in reality, this is where central bankers and the powers that be meet to discuss how they will shape the future.
Super important. I think another thing that will be important is that the work that's going on in central banks with respect to central bank digital currency, and I'm looking at the governor of the Riksbank, who's a leader in this area. We should ask him a question. It's going to be intertwined with the crypto world. It's going to be intertwined with the future of money, and maybe not be the initial motive, the reason that central banks are looking at it, but certainly in the modernization framework, central bank digital currency is the big thing.
The woman speaking is Carolyn Wilkins. She has over 20 years in the central banking industry. She comes from the Bank of Canada. This woman is telling you what I have been saying, is that central bank digital currencies as well as cryptos are going to be intertwined. A lot of the protocols, the utility protocols that is, are going to play a role with central bank digital currencies. It's not going to be one or the other.
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in there. Tokenization of debt, tokenization of securities, tokenization of real estate, tokenization of art. I'm a big believer in those categories. Ripple has invested Ripple's invested over $500 million in over 60 companies, and we will continue to play offense there.
I believe that we're witnessing a once-in-a-million-year opportunity where the old system is imploding and you're watching a wealth transfer going to a new system of array of different protocols, XRP being one of the protocols, and Ripple positioning XRP as best as they can. The internet model is flawed. It relies on tracking and tracing every user that uses the internet. So when NordVPN asked to be a sponsor of the show, I agreed because NordVPN allows users to conceal their IP address. So if you use my link, nordvpn.com/Darren, you'll get an exclusive discount just for using my link. Plus, you'll be helping out my show. Everything that you do on the internet is tracked and traced. There's absolutely no privacy. There are artificial intelligence that is taking your data, analyzing it, distilling it, and then data brokerages are selling it to the highest bidder. They don't care if they're good guys, bad guys. It doesn't matter to the government. They will sell it to the highest bidder. So it's really important that you pay attention to your privacy, and you do that by concealing your IP address. So be sure to check out nordvpn.com/Darren. Now, this isn't just a VPN. There's real-time threat protection, and it's risk-free. If you don't like it within the first 30 days, you'll get your money back. It's a money-back guarantee. So check it out at nordvpn.com/Darren.
But when are you going to move into stablecoins?
Yes.
So the Federal Reserve has a strong interest in ensuring that any stablecoin offering operate within an appropriate federal prudential oversight framework, so they do not threaten financial stability or payment system integrity. We have also provided guidance to the banks that we supervise on how they should engage with their supervisors when considering use of these products. In terms of central bank digital currencies, we continue to speak to a broad range of stakeholders and to conduct basic research in emerging technologies that might support a CBDC payments backbone or for other purposes in the existing payment system. Our research is currently focused on end-to-end system architecture, such as how ledgers that record ownership of and transactions in digital assets are maintained, secured, and verified, as well as tokenization and custody models.
On October 27th, Michael Barr says that they're focusing on stablecoin regulation, giving guidance to the banks, but they're particularly concerned about custodianship. And if you've been paying attention to what Ripple's been doing, they've been buying custodians like Medico, Fortress, right? They're looking for high quality custodians because stablecoin regulations are next.
The way we think about growth is how can we solve a problem, a real world problem? Financial use cases predominantly using this technology. And so, with that at heart, we're just going to continue to hone in on scaling our solutions further so people can move value, manage value, tokenize value, store value more seamlessly around the globe. And so the possibilities are, I would say, pretty much, or they feel unlimited in the sense that if you look at economies at large, how much the total addressable market is of financial use cases. Each one of them, of the categories we talked in the beginning, is in the trillions, right? So that's going to keep us busy for a while.
Sounds.
The utility of XRP is to move money quickly and cheaply. And it has the capability to tokenize anything of value and move it quickly and cheaply. There are now amendments that are passing for AMMs as well as side chains are being explored. Right now, the Zahu network just launched. Side chains allow XRP to be useful for payments, but also XRP can be burned from mainnet and brought into other ecosystems where XRP may have a different role. The Zahu network is a side chain where hooks is enabled. This is going to allow developers to create applications that allow the developers to earn money from the applications built. That's extremely important because you want ecosystems to grow. And it's not going to happen if developers can't feed their families. With sidechains, you expand the utility and you're soaking up the supply, which is positive for price appreciation.
If you think about the fact that cryptocurrencies often surge when we have things like banking crises after SVB, then what you can think there is that this is people flowing into cryptocurrencies for investment purposes. For this reason, we weren't, as I mentioned before, this idea of using caution when evaluating the value of a large block of holdings, especially if it's posted as some kind of collateral that you're expecting someone to liquidate. And just this last point is just that when we think about volatility in crypto markets, when will this volatility subside? We expect this volatility will only subside as the currency becomes used more and more for transactional purposes. Right.
So this is a clip from the same event that Michael Barr was speaking at earlier. So the same Federal Reserve hosted a symposium for payments. This economist is talking about crypto and how to evaluate it and how to price it, and he comes up with all these different equations. And what he's telling you is the more utility, the more stable the price becomes, right? So we've always had these internal arguments within the XRP community.
We expect this volatility will only subside as the currency becomes used more and more for transactional purposes.
Right. The idea of burn to mint, that can be done on anything. That doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new side chain. Let's say we can burn to mint on Hedera. We could burn to mint on ICP. We can burn to mint on whatever. It doesn't matter. And that's going to be the real utility of XRP is when you start tapping into every single network. And XRP is perfectly suited for payments while other networks may be doing other things. And then the payment is its own layer. The XRP layer is specifically for payments, and it's really good at payments. And the rest of the layers do different things.
That I think has created a dynamic that's made it hard for us to move forward on the regulatory side. And our thesis is that there actually is some societal value that could come from many of these new asset classes, new ways of doing financial intermediation in a distributed way that merits the right kind of regulatory attention. And so, one of the really interesting things about this space, and we'll probably get into it, is that it's really not anything new that there's been a quest for cutting up the middleman or through decentralization or to become more efficient. We all know that major financial institutions still have COBOL in their. I think most of the people that know how to program in COBOL are retired by now, but they still have it. And so what our paper tries to do is really set out the lay of the land, but take the positive part seriously.
She's at the Bretton Woods committee using Ripple's elevator speech in order to sell crypto regulations to the rest of the central bankers. So there is a future to crypto, and she's telling you that the same exact thing. Just with payments alone, debit cards, credit cards, they all add on 2%. And the Fed has just changed those regulations. So the Fed is changing regulations, so the big incumbents are going to have to adapt. They have no choice.
Despite the surge in interest in emerging payments technologies, it's important to continue to advance research in both new and older payment methods. Questions on the use of cash and the dynamics among the players in the debit card industry remain worthy of investigation, as is evident in the conference agenda. Earlier this week, the board proposed revisions to the interchange fee cap for debit card issuers, as required by law.
So the Fed, as well as the biz, are changing regulations for the bank. And you notice he just said he put there's a cap now on debit card charges, right? So the merchants have to pay these fees underneath everything, and the Fed is changing those fees. Now, what happens when they start changing regulations for cross-border payments? Correspondent banks are unable to give you an exact price. So in order to move money across the world, you have to just pay whatever fee the correspondent bank comes back with. So if they change the regulations where those prices needed to be transparent, well, that's a very bright world for Ripple and ODL.
So I'm hoping we're in crypto spring or slowly entering. 2 years, big bull market, $1 trillion, mostly stablecoin. I do think, look, somebody much smarter than me once said that, the impact of technology is basically overestimated in the short term and underestimated in the long term. I think we're still in the short term segment, even 10 years in. But I do think real large scale adoption will probably take another 6 to 8 years or so. The last minute I'm going to use for call to action. So if you're interested to dig deeper into all things DeFi, all things tokenization, come see us at the XRP Ledger booth.
There is trillions and trillions of dollars that is exiting the old system and entering this new system. At the same time, the bond market, the treasury market, inflation, they're all warning signs that something's breaking. Silicon Valley Bank was just a little blip. There is something big in the bond market and the euro dollar market. All of these debt markets are screaming that there is a change coming. Dan Druckenmiller is one of the most successful investors. He used to work for the Soros Fund. He knows what he's talking about. What he's telling you is that Janet Yellen could have refinanced the U.S. debt at a lower rate, and she didn't do it. So this was one of the biggest blunders in American history. But what does this tell us? Because the U.S. has debt that it can't afford. It can't afford the debt. It can't afford the entitlements. It can't afford anything. We're broke. And the realization has not came into Main Street yet. And that's what we're waiting for. When that actually comes, which the Janet Yellen and the people in charge, they're going to put up a fight for that not to come. And that comes in the form of printing money. Understand that this is not normal. To spend $1 trillion per quarter is too much. And this is going to pick up pace. It's going to get to 10 trillion and 10 trillion, right? Until the system breaks. Not to mention the other half of the system is oil.
But not directly Yemen. And I think that Iran is hiding behind its proxies. And the international community will need to realize, I would hope rather early, that Israel is facing a war against terror that concerns the West as well, because I'd like to remind everyone that Tehran's favorite slogan is death to America, death to Israel, in that order. And that even though I would say the main theater of war is right now against Israel and in Israel, it concerns everybody. And I think that this is lacking from the conversation, the broader conversation that we're having across the world, is that everyone thinks that Israel is facing this war and that it only concerns Israel. It's not. It's a global war. And the theaters are also playing in the streets of our Western capitals. And I would beg people to really pay attention and wake up to the reality that we're facing today. This is not just against Israel, it's against the West. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I'd like to make that clear. And the attack today by the Houthis against Israel make that abundantly clear.
Imagine the economy as a living, breathing organism. Homeostasis is the balancing act. When everything's balanced, it's working, it's functioning. Right now, there are imbalances everywhere, from too much money to supply chain disruptions, to sanctions. One of the largest economies was taken out of the economy, Russia, right? Now, in the Middle East, what's happening? These countries are large oil exporters. If this war is to escalate and embargoes happen or sanctions, or not even that, just the people that are normally working to drill for oil stop doing that and they go to war, and less production of oil happens, there could be major imbalances with energy compared to paper dollars. So the tables get tilted, and this whole system is getting more and more fragile. Science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition, and myth frame our response. As you may or may not know, in the beginning of November, I went to the emergency room and it turned into a major surgery. I ended up getting septic, over 105-degree fevers. I was literally delirious at moments. And a lot of you guys reached out to me and prayed for me, and it really touched my heart. I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone out there. I appreciate everyone that showed support to me, that just helped me while I was in a really dark place. It was very difficult for me. I'm very self-reliant, and I had to rely on other people. I couldn't even feed myself. I couldn't even put on my clothes. I was dependent on everyone. So, when people reach out to me and pray for me, as well as, this is my passion out in this world is markets. I love to look at the markets and kind of give my opinion about the markets and what's going on. It's what I like to do, and the whole crypto asset part of this, a lot of people miss, and I think that's a big key to it. So thank you to everyone out there that helped me.